Hi, Peter Jones, author, property investor, ex-chartered surveyor, and in the last video we're talking about lessons from 2008, saving up cash to cover you through hard times, having a little bit set away for a rainy day, but actually not a little bit, because I've heard and I've been advised that to be totally secure, you probably want to have about a year's worth of money saved away, a year's worth of business expenses and a year's worth of personal expenses. Now, for many of us, that is going to be a real stretch until our business is at a level where you can actually start saving that kind of a money. And it may take even many years, even if you have a sizable business with a sizable cash flow. So I would suggest starting at 3 months. And even for 3 months, it can be a stretch for many of us, particularly if we're used to spending every penny that we earn. But it's a goal which is worth setting. When you get to 3 months, then set 6 months and build up gradually over a period of years if you have to. But saving up is only one way of making sure that you have the money that you need in case of a downturn or in case of hard times. The other way is to have access to credit. Now, if you've heard my story, if you've heard any of my trainings, you'll know that one of the things which I've done over the last 20 years is that I've collected credit cards. Now, I've got access to a number of credit cards, and those credit cards give me a reasonable amount of credit. I didn't go and apply for all the credit cards at once because that would have hit my credit score, my credit rating, and would have made me not lendable when I was going out to buy my buy-to-let properties. So I've done it carefully over the years, perhaps just applying for one credit card a year or one credit card every 6 months. Now, I'm not saying use credit cards in a reckless way. Sometimes when people mention credit cards, it's almost like they're evil. They're not evil. I know that some people have abused credit cards and they've got themselves into trouble, but I'm suggesting using them in a very strategic way. Most of the time I don't use them at all. But if anything were to happen and if I needed an emergency line of credit, they are there for me. Another positive way in which I use credit cards is that I have a British Airways American Express card, which I use for business expenses when I can, but particularly I use it for paying my premium when my portfolio insurance becomes due. Now, I get a very good deal from my insurance broker, so it's not because I can't afford it, but because I've negotiated with my broker to be able to pay by American Express, it means that I can get loads of Avios points, basically air miles, which means that if I want to go somewhere nice with a bit of planning, I can quite often fly their business class for free, which is great. From a business point of view, though, it makes sense because it means that if I needed to, for example, if there was a bit of a hiccup and my cash flow took a temporary hit, I could choose to spread the payments for my portfolio insurance premium, which is quite hefty. It's a good deal, but it's still quite a hefty bill to pay as a one-off. But I can choose how many months I can pay it out over, which actually helps my cash flow within the business. And of course, that could apply to any business expenses that we may have. By the way, if you also fancy the idea of flying around the world business class, then if you email me, thepropertyteacher@gmail.com, thepropertyteacher@gmail.com, and I refer you, I think that we both, as you're my friend and I'm being referred, I think we both get extra free Avios points. So that could be worth doing. So if you want to try it, then drop me a line and I'll pass you on to American Express. How else can we get credit? Well, possibly through overdrafts, although they're a bit old-fashioned nowadays, but some bank accounts still come with overdrafts. I think a couple of my NatWest accounts still have overdrafts attached and I can get some credit that way. Lines of credit via private finance. Who do you know in your network? Who do you know who may be prepared to lend against some of your assets? Maybe you've got assets you haven't even considered. Maybe if everything went completely to pot and you really needed to, maybe you could use equity in your own home as credit for somebody who's got a private line of finance, or maybe one of your properties may have equity and you can use that as collateral for some kind of private finance. But there's ways and means when you think about it. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and raise loads of money and then spend it recklessly. Please don't mishear me. But I'm just saying that to supplement your cash, should you have to, in an emergency, because of the times that we live in, it can be good to have that kind of credit. Now, one thing, of course, which is easy to say with hindsight, but if you can see the storm clouds gathering and you know something is coming and you're thinking about refinancing some of your properties, for example, it can be a good time to actually crack on and get it done so that you've got credit coming through. It may be that even during the good times, if you refinance a property, you always set some of that money aside in your business account as a business savings account. So you've always got cash. So you're not always spending all the money that you have. It can be very tempting, for example, when you refinance a property to take all of the money and go and buy another property with all of the money. But if you actually keep a proportion every time you refinance a property, or if you keep a proportion every time you sell a property, you will know what it means to you. But the key thing is having available credit. And there's many, many other ways probably of getting credit, which I haven't even mentioned because I probably don't even know about them. If you know of some really good ways of getting credit, then do let me know. Maybe I'll do another video on it. But those are just some of the ways that I've used. You will have your own ways, and it's worth doing. And with that, a combination of that and having your own cash in the bank, then hopefully whatever life throws at you financially, you'll be able to weather the storm. Until next time, please stay safe, please stay healthy.